So, you know that when a product hits version 8, that it's going to be all about the small but meaningful upgrades. And that's what the Galaxy Watch 8 and the Watch 8 Classic are all about. Yes, they are iterative, but the Watch 8 Classic and the Watch 8 are probably the only Wear OS watches in the market right now that are actually good to look at, are fun to use, and they offer serious health and fitness use cases as well. So let's do a deep dive into the Samsung Galaxy Watch 8 Classic and the Watch 8 in this video made in collaboration with Samsung India. Hi, if you're watching me for the first time, I'm Ashar. This is Trakin Tech English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. Now, both Tanishq and Sajid have been daily driving these watches and testing them out. And the first thing that they told me is how slim and light the Watch 8 actually feels. And that's thanks to its full armor aluminum build. It's only about 30 grams and is the thinnest or the slimmest Galaxy Watch ever made at 8.6 millimeters. But wait, Ashad, slim, lightweight? Oh, it must have terrible battery life. Hold on. There's more to know about that. Now, as for the Watch 8 Classic, it brings back that fan favorite rotating bezel, which I kinda absolutely love. And Samsung has used a more premium material for the Watch 8 Classic, which is stainless steel, and therefore it weighs 64 grams, still very comfortable to actually wear and use, and you get that, traditional timepiece feel. Now, with the Watch 8 Classic, you also get that programmable quick button, which was there in the Watch Ultra, by the way, and I kinda love it. So with this extra customizable button, you get fast access to whatever activity or app that you want to open. For example, I've set it to, open the activity of walking. And one design change that I absolutely appreciate is that both these watches now have removed that 20mm, traditional spring pin connector in favor of a new dynamic lug system. Now, with this new mechanism, you get a button on the watch itself. So you just need to press that and you can immediately detach that new strap. And it's definitely easier than the method that was available earlier for sure. By the way, you must be wondering, why haven't I spoken about the new squircle shape of the Watch 8 and the Watch 8 Classic yet? Well, because technically it's not new, and Samsung introduced this shape with the Watch Ultra. And now to make that design cohesive across the entire lineup, they've actually introduced the squircle design for both of these new watches as well. Now, personally, if you ask me, I like this design direction because it gives Samsung watches their unique look. But I know you guys may have a differing opinion, my beautiful, highly opinionated tech nerds. By the way, if you like watching our videos, show some love for Trakin Tech English, hit that subscribe button. And the squircle design could also be the reason how Samsung has managed to actually make the Watch 8 slimmer than the Watch 7 and yet add a larger battery inside. I don't know if the squircle design is the reason for it, but that could be one of the reasons for it. And finally, you do get 5 ATM and IP68 rating, which means that you can go swimming with this. In fact, you can track swimming with these. Alright, now talking about that battery life that I had alluded to, the Watch 8 Classic is giving us fantastic battery life actually. So we're getting close to anywhere between 2 to 3 days of battery life depending on the usage, and with the Watch 8 we're getting about 1.5 days of usage. And if you look at it, the Watch 8 Classic's battery life is very close to that of the Watch Ultra. And this is the battery life that we're actually getting with AOD on, with sleep tracking on, with LTE on, and at 70% brightness. And I know that a lot of people like using their watch at 100% brightness, but you really don't need that for these watches because they can reach a peak of 3000 nits, which is insane. It's plenty bright outdoors and indoors, obviously. By the way, both these watches actually still use the same magnetic charging, mechanism that we got with the previous watches as well. Now, talking about the displays and the sizes, what you get with the Watch 8 are two sizes, 40mm and 44mm, and with the Watch 8 Classic, you get a single 46mm size. And both are, of course, AMOLED panels, and they use a sapphire crystal glass protection on top. And you know what? When Tanishq was using the Watch 8 Classic, he has the habit of walking around like that, and then he hit it twice or thrice on the door and at sharp objects. Nothing happened to it. In fact, not even a scratch to show for it, which is nice. Yes, these watches are actually tough, especially considering the fact that you also do get military standard 8108 certification. As for the software, what you get is One UI 8 on top of Wear OS. And if you've used a Samsung phone with One UI 8, then you'll be right at home. It's functional, it's fluid, and it's packed with a lot of features. For example, you get Now Bar, which is like pill-shaped within the squircle, which is kind of odd, but still, it's there. And then you get multi-info tiles along with live widgets that update in real time. And in our time, absolutely no lag. It's extremely fast. The UI is responsive, like I mentioned. And that's thanks to the fact that you actually get a 3nm Exynos W1000 system on chip. By the way, the Watch 8 Classic has 2GB of RAM and 64GB of storage, whereas the Watch 8 has 2GB of RAM and 32GB of storage. And you know what the wildest features about the Watch 8 and the Watch 8 Classic are? Is the fact that that you actually get support for Gemini on the watch, which you might be like, hey, Shad, I can use my phone for it. But wait for it. Now with the long press of a button or just by saying, hey Google, it will actually, open up Gemini, and there is no phone needed here. And with a watch, you can actually have superb use cases with Gemini. Because the other day, Arnav was actually craving chicken pizza. So he asked Gemini how many calories it had, and it said about 900. And immediately after hearing that, he's like, yeah, no, I'm not consuming 900 calories at once, because he's on a diet plan. And he's like, I'll walk to Domino's instead. Then he said, start walking, and boom, Samsung Health opened up and started tracking. Now, when you look at the ecosystem working this beautifully, you realize that, a voice assistant like Gemini on a watch makes a lot of sense. Also, of course, you get LTE support. Speaking of tracking, these watches are serious health and fitness tools, and Samsung Health app is become even more fluid, even more useful than ever. In fact, Samsung Health app is one of my favorite apps out there. With the Samsung Health app, you now get a health coach system which has been built from ground up, and it works really well. So with this health coach, you actually get advanced tracking for sleep, running, and wellness. So basically, it's called sleep coach, running coach, and wellness coach. Obviously, I'm sure that you want to know how this works, so let me break that down for you. So once you start using these watches, after 3 nights of using these watches and tracking your sleep, it tracks your sleep stages. It then gives you personalized bedtime windows. Like for example, after tracking all of your sleep data, it will tell you that, you might want to sleep between 11 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. tonight to, improve your sleep cycle. You also get assigned a sleep animal, which I kind of found really cute. For example, you could be an unpredictable penguin or a sensitive deer. And every morning you get an energy score in Samsung Health. It factors in sleep quality, heart rate, SpO2, and the consistency to show how ready you are for the day. By the way, it can also detect signs of sleep apnea. Now, as for the running coach, what you have to first do with it is basically run for 12 minutes, and the Samsung watch will actually, track your heart rate, your VO2 max, your comfort levels, and your pace as well. It then assigns a fitness level between 1 to 10. And it also gives you a personalized fitness plan for anywhere between 3 to 5 weeks, depending on your fitness level. In fact, when you're actually running, it gives you a real-time pacing feedback based on what your heart rate zone currently is. And at the end of the run, it also gives you a full performance breakdown. Now, talking about the wellness coach, this is more like an umbrella system under which there are a bunch of unique features. For example, the vascular load measures your cardiovascular stress using heart rate, HRV, SpO2, and your sleep data. You know what? The Watch 8 and the Watch 8 Classic are the world's first smartwatches to actually come with an antioxidant index. Basically, you need to place your thumb at the back of the watch, and the bioactive sensor will measure your skin carotenoid levels. Basically tells you how much fruits and veggies you've been eating. You've been eating very little. For sure. And finally, you've got the energy score, which is a daily readiness score, which gives you ratings based on excellent, steady, or low, based on your overall body metrics. And of course, the regular health and fitness tracking features that were already present are still there. For example, the high stress alerts, ECG, and irregular heart rhythm notification. By the way, there's one test we always do when we get a smartwatch is we actually walk 1,000 steps, count those 1,000 steps properly, obviously, and we check if the step tracking is good enough on these watches. And if you look at the steps that we tracked on the Watch 8 and the Watch 8 Classic, it's just a 1 to 2% variance, which is not bad at all. Alright, so if you're in the market for a very good premium Wear OS smartwatch experience, then the Watch 8 Classic and the Watch 8 are probably the best options for you right now. Samsung has brought back the fan favorite rotating bezel, which I think is awesome, and it has also taken feedback to improve the battery life of the Watch 8. I recommend them not just for the features, but also because Samsung has priced it sensibly too. Because you're getting very good cashback for the Watch 8 Classic and the Watch 8 basically of 12,000 rupees and 9,000 rupees with a lot of banks, credit cards and debit cards, by the way. Which means that the starting price of the Watch 8 Classic is about 35,000 rupees and for the Watch 8 is 24,000 rupees, which I think is pretty attractive for fresh new watches in the market. So what do you folks think of the Watch 8 Classic and the Watch 8? Let me know in the comments. And do you guys want like a long-term review of these watches? We'd love to do that as well. In fact, actually never done a long-term smartwatch review. We should definitely try that out. Maybe, there's an audience for it. And of course, when these discounts happen, sales happen, and you're tempted to buy one of these watches, then it will make a lot of sense to see a long-term review, right? All right, that's it from me for this one. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.